Now we're going to go ahead and create a cul-de-sac for Sydney Court. Now it's important that before you go ahead and create the cul-de-sac that your Civil 3D alignment, and as a consequence your road string, covers the extent of where your cul-de-sac is going to be created. We're unable to create the cul-de-sac at the end of your Civil 3D alignment, and the reason is that we actually use the elevations of the edge of travelway code and the centerline elevations of your string to ensure that we can calculate the elevations of the cul-de-sac. So it's really important that you make sure that your road string covers the extent of the cul-de-sac, and in this case the cul-de-sac will actually terminate, or the end of the cul-de-sac will be at the end of the alignment and work back. So to start off with, we head to cul-de-sacs, right click, click on Create Edit. In the bottom of the command line here, we're prompted to select cul-de-sac to edit or press enter if creating a brand new one. Now we're creating a brand new one, so we're going to press enter. We'll be prompted with the cul-de-sac form, and one of the great things about this form is that you can see everything in the central section here, which is the hover graphic, which helps you understand what it is that you're completing. We're going to ensure that we give this the correct name, because this is actually going to go ahead and create for us a Civil 3D alignment, an internal string. So we're going to call this Sydney Court CDS for cul-de-sac. The incoming road we could go and pick, but we're actually going to pick it from this pull down instead. And then we're going to say that the attachment is at the end of the road. This could be both. We could end up with one at the start and the end as well, don't forget. The match code is going to be the ETW, and again, a good reason why we'd recommend you stick with ETW on your template is because that is the generic code used throughout the software. We then have a variety of different alignment geometry types, so that what's going to happen first is we're actually going to go ahead and create the Civil 3D alignment on this side of the form, and then on the right hand side we're actually going to compute the vertical grading and create a string on top of it. We're simply going to be using the circle option. Now we've got two ways we can determine the position of this, and if you want to zoom, you just need to click on the little zoom button here to pan and zoom, and press space or enter or escape to bring the form back again. We can either choose a start station, which will basically draw the cul-de-sac out from that particular spot, or we can choose a pass-through point, which is essentially like a termination point. Now I know that the cul-de-sac needs to stop here, so I'm going to click on Use Pass-Through, click the picker tool, and use my snaps to click on the end of the alignment. The radius values are going to be applied here. You can see with the hover graphic showing you what those values apply to are going to be 35, 35, and 35. All you need to do is click Create Update Alignment, and this will draw for you a Civil 3D alignment. Now we haven't created a string on this at the moment, so if we want to now create the string, all we now need to do is compute vertical grading, and that will automatically trim the model and redraw appropriately. If you need to make adjustments, so for example these radius values on here need to be 30 feet for the incoming and outgoing, we can click on those, change those values, click on Create Update Alignment, and then as soon as the alignment updates, the string is automatically updated as well. Let's just see how we may make an edit after we've changed or after we've created the cul-de-sac. So we're going to click Close. In Toolspace now we have our cul-de-sac. If we right click, Edit Cul-de-sac, we're sent back to the same form. So if we wanted to make those values 35 feet, we can do. Click on Create Update Alignment, then immediately the software makes that update, and then we can click on Close. In respect of the vertical design of the cul-de-sac, what's happening at the moment is the software is transferring the slope of the road, which that's just going to have a look at first of all. So we right click on the 24-foot residential. It's transferring the slope from the centerline to the ETW code at 2% and projecting that slope until it strikes the new position of the ETW code, which in this case is the cul-de-sac. The extent of that automation can be controlled by you. Now we're going to close down the template editor, and all we're going to do is to find our cul-de-sac here, right click and open up the vertical grading editor. Now this is probably where the tracker is most helpful. So as we come into the cul-de-sac, as you can see here, just moving my mouse along the vertical design here, what's happening is the software is projecting that 2% all the way through until we get to the center of the bowl. Then it's stopping, allowing us to go in and make an edit. In this case it's actually calculating the instantaneous grade of the incoming and outgoing grades and putting in a single curve, but it's then doing the same on the other side. It gets to the center point of the bowl and projects that 2% all the way through. These IPs are not editable. So if I click on PI edit here, click near a particular IP, it says we can't edit it. Okay, and we're unable to make any changes to these. This is because the extent of this automation is controlled by us when we create or edit the cul-de-sac. So if we want to reduce this automation to maybe a very small amount, we can do. We can also increase it. Let's close this down. We're going to right click on Sydney Court, edit cul-de-sac. The controls for the extent of the automation are simply using these values in here, and if you have a look at the hover graphic, you can see that basically what's happening is the software is running the automation as far as the center point of the bowl, which happens to be the station here along our road, which is 495.32. So if we want to reduce that automation, instead of it being all the way through to here, we want to reduce it all the way to the back here. What we can do is basically say, well, look, for the first couple of feet, only provide me with automation. We can see here the start station is 443. So what we might do is change the extent of automation to be a couple of feet. In fact, we'll round that number, so we'll say 445, and on the outgoing also only up to 445 feet. We can then click on Compute Vertical Grading. Then as soon as we've done that, to save us opening the vertical grading editor through tool space, we'll actually get it to display when we've closed. Click Close. The extent of that automation is now very small. In fact, we're only getting one IP. So that does mean that we've now got full control over the design of the cul-de-sac. And if at any point we want to come back and make that extent of that automation full again, we can right click, edit cul-de-sac, and all we do is we provide it with that number that was there before. Now I'm simply going to round this to 495. We actually provide you or report back to you that number at the top. Compute Vertical Grading. Then we can click on Close. In fact, again, we'll show the VG on Close. And there we have it. So there is our cul-de-sac being created and the controls for the vertical design within that particular form.